I think the great thing about fitness is, as a career for me, the endless education that there is. There's always something new to learn. It's not like, great, you're done, you've learned everything, there's no more to teach you, right? There's always new science coming out. There's always new methods coming out. There's always something to go back and be like, oh my gosh, like, should I rethink the way I used to teach?
Hi, I'm Derek Mills. Welcome to the Glow Podcast. My guest today is Jeni DelPozo, a Glow teacher who started her journey into fitness at a young age, fueled by her love for dance. Her classes focus on strength training, cardio, mat Pilates, bar, stability, stretching, and high-intensity interval training. I took her recent hip mobility class on Glow as I prepared for our discussion. Jeni shares how she navigates burnout and her techniques for connecting with her online students. We'll also touch on the ways that dance stimulates the mind. Whether you're a fitness enthusiast or just looking for a dose of inspiration, you're in for a treat when you listen to Jeni. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Jeni DelPozo. Hi, Jeni. I'm so excited to be here with you today. Thank you.
Same. Thanks, Derek.
You know, I was a bit short on time this morning and I wanted to take one of your longer classes, but I was really happy to see that one of your recent classes was a 15-minute hip mobility class. And I wanted to note that I really appreciate how you shared your experience along the way, like how at one point your hip cramped at the same moment that mine did. And
I love that.
You know, and that you felt comfortable to do so. That means a lot to me.
Oh my gosh. Well, that one, that's one that I'm going to definitely keep going back to as well, because I mean, hip mobility, I think, is something that I focus a lot on for myself because I know I need it. But then I think with filming for so long and, you know, doing so many workouts on camera, I think one of the best things I've ever learned is like, if you're going through it, they probably are. So like they are too. So it's okay to say like, oh my gosh, this is really tough. Or like, oh, that's a cramp that's really happening. And not have to like just smile through it and act like there's no pain happening whatsoever. Not bad pain, but you know what I mean? Like it's something that I've learned along the way of like, you don't have to look perfect when you're doing a workout with somebody. So I'm glad we cramped at the same time.
And it's so important because you can sometimes tell when the instructor is having an issue and they're kind of just like, you know, gritting their teeth and pushing through it. And yeah, I always feel a little badly about that. Not on Glow, obviously, but you know, elsewhere out there in the world.
Yes.
And so yeah, I just wanted to note that. And that really helps create, as we've heard over the years, this connection between student and teacher and greater sense of accessibility. And so I wanted to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you for telling me about that. I appreciate it.
There was just one note on the class that I wanted to ask you about. The one exercise lying down where the knees are bent at a 90-degree angle. I enjoyed it, and I plan on adding it to my routine going forward. I noticed that my left leg wasn't rotating out as far as the other, and so that really motivated me to explore why that is and to work on that. Does that move or exercise have a name?
I'm trying to think of exactly which one you're thinking of. So you're lying on your back, legs are at like a tabletop position?
Exactly.
And then was it just internal and external rotation, right?
And you pivot at the knee.
Yes. I don't know if there probably is like a name that somebody's given it along the way.
Sure.
But it's such good work and just to like a real easy way for you to tell if one hip doesn't want to move as much as the other.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but I don't know if I'm sure there's a name. Someone's given it a name out there. I'm always just like such a like teacher of like, okay, well, we're supine, legs are at tabletop position, and then we're doing internal, external rotation. So like sometimes like that's as far as I'll go with the name for it, but I'm sure there's a name out there for it for sure.
Yeah, most likely. All right, let's switch to your background, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about the whole full circle arc for you, dancing competitively and professionally for 18 plus years and majoring in fashion, then your experience in the apparel industry, and then full circle back to your roots, to health and wellness and fitness. And it just sounds like an inspiring journey. So I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. It was a long journey, but I really appreciate every aspect of it because I feel like I use so many pieces from all different parts of that journey for sure. I grew up dancing, so I've been dancing since 5th grade. I saw who was like turned out to be my best friend, but didn't know her at all. And it was a play at school or something, or like some type of showcase. And I was like, oh, I want to do what she does. So I asked her for her parents' number, and then I made my mom call her mom, and then I started dancing. So then I started doing that and danced competitively until I was 18 years old. And from there, I went to community college first because I wasn't sure where I wanted to go or what I wanted to do. And I started dancing in community college, but I knew that that's not what I wanted to get necessarily like my college degree in or anything. And I was always interested in apparel and fashion. And it's so funny because I like reached out to FITM. So I went to fashion school, the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in LA. And I reached out to FITM and like booked an appointment with their counselor, didn't even tell my parents, and just like drove myself to a meeting with them and then came home. And mom was like, where were you? I was like, oh, I was at like a college tour. And she's like, what? Like, you didn't tell us? And I was like, no, but I have this whole project. I want to sign up for the program that I signed up for. And they're like, okay, we should probably go with you to this next piece of this. And it was just so funny. But I ended up going to FITM for, I did 2 majors there. I did like merchandise and manufacturing. And then I did international manufacturing and product development, which was like this very intensive program with 9 students, which was really cool. And then I ended up working for PacSun, Pacific Sunwear, for 4 years doing product development for them. I loved it. I loved because it was like my first time struggling in a career. Like any job that I did before, I was like, all right, I got it. Let's go. And I was really great, right? It was fun to be that person too. But then with this, like being a full-blown career that I was in, starting at the very bottom, learning so much and like having parts where I was like, I am struggling. I don't get this. How do I get through this? Was really actually great for me to have those moments. I met incredible people along that journey that are still my friends to this day. Most of the people that are my friends today are from that job. And it was great. I loved it. But then I felt like something was still really missing in my life. And I kind of had those moments of like, oh my gosh, I drive. It was a very far drive. It was because I was still living in Redondo Beach and it was in Anaheim. So I did this far drive every single day. I would drive all the way to work and then I would just drive home, have dinner, go to bed, and do that every single day. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing anything else aside from this.
That's a lot of time on the 405.
It's so much time on the 405. It was a lot. Oh my gosh, you know it. And we didn't have like podcasts back then. Like we listened to like whatever CD I put in the car for the time being. And so I then like made the change of like, all right, I'm going to go from work, drive all the way to Hollywood and take dance class. And then I'll drive all the way home to Redondo Beach. And like, I'd get home at like 10:30 at night. But I was like, my cup was finally full again. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to be doing this. Like, it was so helpful to do that. And then at some point with my career at PacSun and then loving dance again, I was like, how do I make this dance part of it though, more of my life again? Because it was just making me so much happier. Right. Even though I loved everyone I worked with and I did love the challenge, I was like, okay, I love this challenge, but I feel like, do I see myself going here for the rest of my life, or is this what I want to do? So I made like a big decision. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. I made my parents come and watch me dance. I was like, come watch me take dance class again. And they're like, okay. I'm like, because I love it so much. And I make them go. And after class, my mom was like, you should probably stick with the job that you have now. And I was like, no way.
No.
I love this. And she was like, I mean, and listen, my parents were so crazy supportive, but they're like, you worked so hard to get this job and like you're in the career that you're supposed to be in. And like, now you want to go back to dance from, high school days. And so I totally understand, but like they came around. I was like, nope, this is definitely what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I gave like my job like 4 weeks notice because I was like, I'm not going anywhere else. I just know this isn't what is my end all goal. And they're like, okay. And then started dancing.
Like you knew the other path lit you up and.
Yes. Like I knew. I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then I left, like sobbed my last day, like talked to my SVP and he's like, you can go back anytime you want. I was like, okay. And just like, like wiping away tears. It was like the sweetest day.
That's so tough.
But oh my gosh. But it's so like, it's funny because again, I still talk and I'm still so close with so many of those people. So like, it's amazing that I have those friends and made those connections. And that's where I'm always like, I knew that happened for me for a reason. I know that was part of my path for a reason. Because I'm like, I also have this business mindset that I don't think I'd have this day, like today, if I didn't have that career and, have the politics of an office and things like that, which is great to know.
It's so helpful to know. I was going to ask you what, having come from that, how did it inform like how you navigate your current world?
I think it's made me like always want to understand like the business side of things still and not just be a teacher or just be a dancer or just be a designer, right? Like even when I went to fashion school, they're like, where do you see yourself? I'm like, I love design, but I want to understand the business aspect of it. I want to understand costs, logistics, all of that. So like, that's where I think it helps me with where I'm at with my career now, because I don't want to just teach and not think of anything else that's going on with the behind the scenes, the back end things. Like I love to understand that world too. So I think it just makes me a well-rounded instructor in that sense of like, I understand that there's timelines for things and everything like that. Listen, sometimes I don't respond to an email as fast as I could. And I'm still working on that to this day. But I do understand that there's a lot of people and a lot of moving pieces and parts, and it's not just me and my schedule. So I do think it's helpful for where I've come now.
Yeah. Well, we all have the occasional experience of not responding in time. But I always appreciate that so much in teachers when they bring with them that past experience or parallel experience of appreciating, what it takes, for a team to operate together in a way that's functional and then to merge into that a little bit more seamlessly.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's helpful. I'm sure you can tell, like, and it's okay to have teachers who don't want to know anything of that back end.
Absolutely.
But I'm like, tell me everything.
Right. It just may require a little bit more patience and curiosity. And
yes.
And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I do love that. Yeah, exactly. But so then I started dancing more out when I left PacSun. And then I was like, okay, I don't think this is going to be my career path. Like, I don't think this is going to be what makes me money. Right. This is what I do love to do though. And what's something that's similar to it. And I was talking to a friend and she's like, you should look into Pilates. And I was like, okay. And then I thought that Pilates would be just something that I would have in my back pocket as a certification and be like, okay, cool. If I ever need to use this, then I'll use it. And when I was going through my certification, I like fell in love with it. I was like, everything made sense. Every single exercise, I was like, yep, got it. Tell me the next one. I'm ready. Like, I just loved every single aspect of it. So that's when I knew that was going to be where I went with my career. And I was like, let's go. I'm ready. And when I finished my certification, like I did it through Equinox and they're like, where do you want to work? I was like, I want to work at this location because it's brand new. And it was like, New Year's Eve or New Year's Day at like a normal gym, but like in the middle of April, and everyone was so excited to try out the new club, and it made my life a little easier. But I knew that going into it, probably a little bit with my business background of like, how does that ever happen? Like, you don't get to just join a brand new club where everyone's so excited about every aspect of the entire company and building and everything. So like I got to teach Pilates to so many people right off the bat, which really helped me as well.
Yeah, what a cool experience. And then one more point I wanted to make on the dancing side of things, that we're finding now that dance as this combination of physical and engaging cognitive faculties is really good for longevity, like healthy aging. And so I'm a little envious that you have that in your back pocket.
Listen, you can take a dance class too. But
that's right. It's never too late to start.
No, it's not. It's so funny that you say that, because I have like recognized when I've taken dance classes, when I've been really consistent with my dancing, I can pick up a routine just like that. I'm like, all right, go, next 8 count, let's go. But if it's time off, it is so much tougher for me to pick up the choreography. And it's just because my brain hasn't been working like that. Oh yeah. So I think that's a big thing, that you're right. Like, it's just that cognitive piece, and like you're using your brain so much in that sense, where dance can be super helpful. I think at any level, like starting out too, like you're making your brain really work.
Yeah, exactly. Well, do you mind if we switch gears and go into some of the questions that our team put together?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So, our team, you've probably experienced this. They, so much value the time that they get to spend with you behind the scenes, from end to end, onboarding with you, creating the relationship, prepping for classes, and so on. And so I asked them all what questions they thought our Glow members might want me to ask you. And so hope we won't get to all of them, but we'll get to a few of them here. So the first one is, what is it like behind the scenes working with Team Glow?
Working with Team Glow is a very supportive, hand-holding team in the best way possible, where like I remember like my first meeting with everybody, like I got to come into the office when we had the office in Santa Monica and sit down with the whole deck, and it was just like so well prepared, but like in the same sense, like, but what else do you want to be like, what can we give you to make the best classes for Glow? So there's a lot of great hand holding, and then also like just a lot of space to be like, what do you want to do though? And I think my favorite piece, like it's my favorite piece because it makes me actually really super creative. And a lot of companies don't do this. And it's, I don't know, maybe you don't want me to give this away. So, but like,
no, it's actually what I love about our process.
Yes.
And so, yeah, please go for it.
It's the working with the team, and the team that I work with, like they'll send me a like 30-minute back to basics bar. So it's just the title of the workout. And then I get to do whatever else I want with that space. And it's the perfect amount of not like, oh yeah, go do whatever you want. Cause I wouldn't be able, I'd be like, I don't know what to do. Like I have no idea right now. But like having just that tiny, having that tiny roadmap is the most helpful. And it's really like my favorite way to create. And honestly, Glow's the only company that does that. Yeah. And I know it's really helpful to get the analytics and the numbers and things like that too. And a lot of the times I think sometimes companies will see the analytics and be like, great, so we need something just like this, but the next version of it. And that's really hard to do sometimes too, where you're like, I don't know why we can't just keep doing the same workout again and again then. You know what I mean? And I understand that there needs to be something there. So Glow's done a really great job of, here's my analytics, here's this, here's a great title that we would love for you to be able to create off of. And it's made my life so much easier, but then so much more just space to do what I can do best with it.
Beautiful. I love that. I'm so happy that that's your experience.
Oh, I love it. I'm always like, let's see these. Yes, I love these. And then, of course, they're like, if there's something, if there's a title that you're like already ready and willing to go for, then totally. But I do appreciate having that a little bit taken off my plate. And your team's like, we got you. Like, I'm like, yes, it's perfect for me.
Sweet.
Yeah. It works so well.
Running a type ship with room for co-creative.
Exactly.
Have you ever been approached by one of your Glow fans out there in the real world?
I did, and it was recent, and it was so sweet. I was at an event for one of my other clients who was launching an apparel line, and this woman came up to me. She's like, "What's your name?" And I was like, "I'm Jeni." She's like, "Oh, nice to meet you." And then she's like, "Jeni, what?" And I was like, "DelPozo." And I'm like, "I'm, the person's trainer that was there." And she was like, "I know your voice." And she was like, "I took all of your classes like throughout the pandemic. You got me through that." And I was like, "Well, really?" And she was like, "Yep, I was on Glow all the time." And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is so special." And I was like, I was like at this event seeing all these like very well-known people. And she came up to me. I was like, "Oh my God, I love this world." So it was a really special moment. It was really, really sweet.
That's cool.
And the Glow members are so great I get a lot of DMs. And I always like look back at the feedback and everything too after the workouts too. So Glow members are really great about reaching out, and I appreciate it so, so much. I love hearing from members.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah. We started this back in 2008, and I, for the most part, like, I don't want to, if I were to put a percentage to it, it'd be like 99% of the time. It's just been incredibly lovely.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I'm thoroughly grateful for how our Glow members have shown up and treated our teachers with respect and kindness. And
100% they have. Yeah.
If you consider that lovely woman who approached you and think about how it is that you approach your teaching online, like what is it that you think it is that you do that helps create that effect for someone to have that experience with you through a screen?
Yeah, I think a big part of what I do, and it comes from my Pilates background, is to really, so in our Pilates certification, which I think may be different from even other Pilates certifications, we had to go through each exercise, right? And talk about the muscular bypass. And so what the body's going to want to do to not do the exercise, like to make it the easiest it possibly can, right? So all the things that your body wants to bypass to work around the hard stuff. And learn all of that, and then learn how to cue that to make sure that you are doing it to the best and getting the most out of each exercise. So I think that being able to have all of those types of cues in my back pocket at any moment and know what people are going to want to do to bypass some of the hard makes my workouts just a little, like, I've had people be like, "I thought you were talking," like, it was literally a cue just for me. And I'm like, yes, because I know that that's what our bodies want to do. So I think being able to pick out a lot of those cues and know what your body's going to do, but then also know what your body needs more of, because I know a lot of the times we show up for workouts on the app because I won't do cardio on my own. I don't like to do Pilates on my own. You know what I mean? So like, that's also what I think about too when I am programming. It's like, okay, where do I need to put in, this cardio burst or this part of it? Or like, I know that I don't want to do this on my own. Like, let's do this together then instead. So it's a little bit of accountability that I want to give to the member and be like, all right, I'm going to hold you accountable to, we're going to get through this part together. I'm going to give you the cues to help get the most out of your exercise and work out every single time you show up. And then you're also holding me accountable because I don't sometimes love to do those cardio bursts either. So we're going to do them together and both get them out of the way. So I think it's that mixture of those three things that make my classes what they are. I
would agree with that. And it is helpful to think in terms of the bypass that you refer to as what we don't want to do, because we naturally try to avoid over exerting or simply just exerting in ways that we just don't want to, even though it may be very healthy for us.
Yeah.
Do you ever think in terms of type 1 and type 2 muscles and working them in any particular proportion?
Not necessarily if I am like, unless it's like a themed class for it, then not really. I mean, especially when it comes to Pilates classes, I don't think about it too much. But I think just like talking about the why of like why we're doing an exercise too is really helpful. I know like when I stopped dancing, I didn't realize dance was like a workout. Like I had no clue how much I was working out. I just loved dancing
funny.
and I was just there for, oh my gosh, I would I would take 3 dance classes a day, right? Like all throughout high school. Granted,
most people can't do that.
right. Like, and I just did that. And I always think about, granted, we were standing around a lot of the time learning choreography, seeing other parts, like going back. And so it wasn't like a full 90 minutes of me moving. But when I stopped dancing, I didn't realize like that I needed to do or I wanted to do something to keep my body healthy. Especially like that was like right when I was going into college too. So it's such a really interesting path of like, okay, stop all the fitness that you've been doing that you didn't realize was fitness. And now you're into college, trying out drinking for the first time, like all those things. So I got a trainer because I wanted to learn that. And I hated every single minute of those workouts. And it was like, we're going to do lunges up and down with weights. We're going to do this. And like, I think I just didn't connect to it because I do all that now and I love it, but I just didn't know why I was doing it. So I think when you can talk about why you're doing something and how helpful it can be and like what other things you can probably do better now because we've been doing this, just maybe sparks a little bit more interest into like, or like just a little bit more of like, okay, I get why I'm doing this. I'm down to do it now. Versus walk up and down this catwalk and do all these lunges. I was like mortified and I hated it. I am like, and it's so funny because look at what I do today, right? Like,
Yeah.
So I think that that's something that I focus on more versus type 1, type 2. Yeah.
Yeah, knowing the why is incredibly powerful for me. I can be really stubborn. So if I haven't convinced myself that that's something that doing something over and over again would be helpful for me, then yeah, I just won't do it.
I am the same exact way, Derek. It's so funny. I can be so stubborn about my workouts still. And even though like, I'm like, I see this, but I'm like, but this is really hard. And like, I'm like, I don't know if I want to go there yet. And it's like, it's some stubbornness that I do have still too. That's when I get into the science of it. And I'll be like, okay, teach me the science behind it. And then I can get on the board.
That's right. Yeah. If you demonstrate to me the empirical reasons as to why I should be doing something or why it would be helpful for me at this stage in my life, then I'm all in.
100%. Same.
We know that burnout, among other emotional / psychological experiences, are of importance to our community. And we often get a lot of questions from our members. How would our teachers approach certain life experiences? And so with the limited time that we have left, why don't we go with burnout? So I'm curious, have you experienced burnout, or if so, how do you tend to navigate through it? And what do you recommend people do if they find themselves in this kind of downward spiral of burnout that I've experienced can be incredibly hard to pull oneself out of?
Yes. Yeah. I think burnout's a really tough one. I definitely have experienced it myself many a times. I think that like a lot of the times too, when I've experienced burnout, my old path or like pattern would be almost to like hate the situation and run away from it, almost like whether it was a job or something like that. Like I'd be like, what, it's just done. I'm done with it. Right. Like I'm over it. And it's because I'm not like, it's just because I'm burnt out. I think the great thing about fitness is, as a career for me, the endless education that there is. There's always something new to learn. It's not like, great, you're done. You've learned everything. There's no more to teach you, right? There's always new science coming out. There's always new methods coming out. There's always something to go back and be like, oh my gosh, like, should I rethink the way I used to teach? And that's, I think, why I've stuck with fitness for so long and like been so happy with it and not ran away. But with that too, yes, I've had so much burnout. And the hard part is that like when people are like, oh, like, I'll read like amazing and listen to amazing podcasts about burnout. And what the number one thing to do is to exercise, right? And then I'm like, well, I do that for a living.
But
Yeah.
and it can be so hard to exercise when you're burnt out.
Yes. Yeah. And they're like fitness, like, 15 minutes. I'm like, but if my burnout comes from my fitness career, because it is my job, then what am I supposed to do? Right. And I was like, man, that's so hard for me. So like I had a hard time when I would experience burnout within this career that I'm in. And I think the best thing that I've done for myself is truly take time off, and not have it on my schedule. But then also fill my schedule with other things that I truly love to do, which was like see my friends. Like that was my way of doing fitness. That was like, number one, go do like go work out for 15 minutes. It'll help with your burnout. Mine would be to like go see friends, put a smile back on my face, and then come home and just be a little bit more recharged. And then also knowing which friends it is that recharge your battery, which friends, keep you at that even level you haven't been charged, or which friends can take away from it, right? And I found that it's more of my friends that aren't within the fitness industry that I can just go and like they have no clue what kind of my life like day to day kind of looks like. Not no clue, but like they're not wrapped in it so that we don't start to just talk about it too much or vent about it even, or we can just have like a blast together and do that. So that's kind of what has helped me with burnout. I think also too, for a while I was reading, and I still do this, of course, because I love to learn, but I'll read books about running. I'll read books about like self-help books and things like that. But then I'm also just being very critical of myself still too in those settings. So then I just will read a book like that's just complete like science fiction or something like that, that truly lets me just detach from being self-critical and then also thinking about, oh, how does that work with my career, right? Like just something that just has nothing to do with my career has been really helpful just to go down that path. And that took me a long time because again, for a long time, like I've been working for myself for so long that I'm like, well, if I'm not working, then I'm not being successful, right? And then it's just, defining what success really means for me and things like that. And that's like where I had to kind of sit with myself and be like, okay, working more doesn't always mean that means you're more successful. That's just setting myself up for burnout again and again. And I know this isn't a career that I want to get out of. I know I'm doing the right things. I'm in the right places. This is exactly where I should be. So finding, those friends, those books, just something where it's like truly not letting me be self-critical was really helpful for me with burnout.
Wow. You touched on so many powerful tips / principles / ways of navigating that really resonate with me. It took me well over 15 years to come to that conclusion that you referred to as I spent so long that if I'm not working, if I'm not sitting at a desk, if I'm not somehow moving the ball down the field on what it was that I was working on, then that would equate to I'm not doing well enough. I won't achieve the goals that I've set out for myself. A never-ending downward spiral of perfectionism that was never satisfied. And also to truly knowing what serves you and what fills your cup and separating yourself from the very industry or forces that were at play that tended to give you that experience of increased cortisol and adrenaline and competitive sort of comparison. All of that resonates with me. And I too recently, that was another one of my tricks, was to have a book or to be engaged in a series of books that were completely separate from the work that I was doing. And so, I wanted to ask you, which science fiction books do you love, or what are you currently reading? I ask in part because I just started reading the Foundation series. mainly because it's on Apple TV Plus, and that's how I sort of gained interest in it.
I'm so with you where it's like, it's that competitiveness too. And then also like comparing yourself to everyone else. Cause then I had that hard time of like, well, that person's doing it. Like, then I should be doing it. Right. And then you kind of go down that route. Or like, you know, if you do step back and you see somebody else doing what you are like that, like you're like, oh, I could have done that. And then you're like, well, shoot, now I'm back, you know, not doing that thing. So I'm with you on that. I fell into, I have a friend who's a producer, and he produced His Dark Materials, the show. It was a show for HBO did.
I love that show. It's
so good. So before it was launching, I had never read any of those books. And so I read all those, so which was a little while ago. But like, I remember like, that's what kind of started me on like, oh, you're allowed to read things that aren't necessarily beneficial to your career or your self like growth. Like it was exactly what I needed. Like I was like just balled up in the Golden Compass, and then the next one was, I forget the name of it, but there's like the Subtle Knife or something. Like they were just so good for me to just completely be in a different world. And I loved the like their little like demons that they would have, and I like you know, envisioned it all, and then I got to see the show, which was amazing too. So it was just a perfect like such a getaway for me, where I was like, this is exactly what I needed. So I find myself reading more just fiction and that type of thing too. Like it's just so much fun. It's fun.
It's so fun. And yeah, just on that show in particular, I love considering the concept of a demon and having that, whether it be like the subconscious or, you know, aspects of ourselves that we don't want to either own or, yeah, it's fun. Maybe I'll pick those books up next.
They're so good. You'll love them.
And then you mentioned endless education. We're definitely drawn to people who are continuous learners. And so is there anything that currently has your attention, or that you're spending more time learning than you have previously?
Yes, definitely. I think when it comes to, so I'm getting much more into running. I talk about it all the time in my workouts too. Last year, I think it was last year. Well, it was 2020. Was it only last year? Maybe it was only last year that I ran my first marathon. And then I decided to run 2, of course, because the competitive nature in me was like, well, let's see what I can do with this.
Right. Why would you stop at 1? Yeah.
Exactly. So I've gotten much more into like reading up on running and that science behind it too. And kind of that 80-20 rule. Like there's a really great book called The 80-20 Rule of Running. And I think it's kind of a great way to look at life too, when it comes to it, where it's like 80% of your running, if you want to get faster, it's Matt Fitzgerald, I believe his name is 80% of your run should be at like a low threshold. Like you should be, it's low intensity.
Like a zone 2.
Yes. And but we all think that our zone 2, it's much more like our zone 3, zone 4, but we try to, you know, play that, oh, like, nope, this is zone 2. And like, obviously heart rate monitoring is going to help with that too. But like 80% of running should be low intensity, and only 20% should be that high intensity. And I think that's like, I've like loved that concept for running. Cause like, again, I was never a runner growing up. Like I danced my whole life. I danced for like competitive dance, like choreography was like, a dance routine was 3.5 minutes long max, and you weren't even dancing that whole time. So to run, you know, for over 4 hours, like just never thought that would happen in my life. But again, understanding the science behind it a little bit more made it a lot more exciting for me. I think I used to get really caught up on my form, but then in that same book, it's kind of great because he talks about like everyone's going to have their own form. There's of course things that you don't want to do, but you're going to figure out your own form and flow with it. And I kind of like that idea for a lot of things too in life. But so I've gotten much more into my running and what that feels like and looks like. And then also I found like my perfect combination with my Pilates, running, yoga is just heavier lifting. So I've been doing a lot more strength training as well, which has been really, really fun to kind of just wrap my head around that. So that's been really fun. And I'm actually going to do like a full like lifting certification soon as well, like just to really get into that world a little bit more. So there's so much to learn. I love it.
This has been so fun. Thank you so much. Where can people find you online? And do you have anything upcoming that you'd like to announce?
Oh my gosh, this has been so great, Derik. Thank you so much. Nothing in the works right now, like coming up. Just I will keep getting so many workouts to you guys on Glow. I have my website as well. It's JeniDelPozo.com. So you can find me there. You all know my social too. It's at JeniDelPozo_fitness. So I'm always here. I'm always happy to hear from all of you. If there's ever anything that you have questions on, I'm always just a DM away to help out with that too.
Oh, that's so kind of you. I know that can take a lot of time. We'll post your website and your IG in the show notes. And thank you. This has been wonderful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Derik. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you to our entire team behind the scenes at Glow. I'm so grateful for your care and commitment to serving our members around the world. Thank you to our teachers for so beautifully sharing your gifts and talents. I'm also grateful to our lovely community of Glow members. You've supported us since 2008, and because of you, we get to continue to do the work we love. It's the combined support of our team, our teachers, and our community that grants me the privilege to continue to bring you the Glow podcast. Thank you to Lee Schneider at Red Cub Agency for production support, and the beautiful music you're hearing now is by Carrie Rodriguez and her husband Luke Jacobs. And remember, take care of yourself because our world needs you. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. You can find the Glow podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or glo.com/podcast, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'm Derik Mills.